30 plus years. Long time. Long
I got
time.
the mail. You're supposed to use it.
I talk.
Louder.
Hey there, it's 3 o'clock on a Tuesday. We all know what that means. Another riveting episode of Behind Breaking Bond. You just came from City Hall.
Not only did I come from City Hall, I came from Huntsville this morning.
Oh, that's
I
right.
started off in Huntsville for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice National Crime Victims' Rights Week event. It's a beautiful ceremony outside. Excellent speakers. It was very touching. And then we managed to come back to City Hall for our proclamations that the Mayor, John Whitmire, and City Council Member Julian Ramirez. So we honored and recognized about 17 different organizations within the city of Houston whose basically their function is to work with victims of crime, whether it be domestic violence, human trafficking, homicide survivors, child abuse, and you name it.
That's so important, isn't it?
You know, and like I said, you know, we see all these award ceremonies, the Oscars, the Emmys, the ESPYs, the Grammys, giving adulation to athletes and entertainers.
Yeah.
And I'm turned around and said, these are the real heroes.
Right.
People who work day in and day out in the trenches, basically rebuilding lives from people who never ever dreamed they would be in this experience.
Right.
And that's kind of what this year's theme is: hope and how to access resources. And so we thought it was very important for the city to recognize organizations, and it was nice to be back at City Hall.
Yeah. Laticia, introduce.
Hi, I am Laticia Ibarra. I am a mother of a homicide victim here in Houston, and I have been through my whole journey, have been really inspired to make some positive change and have some good come out of what happened to me and my family.
How did you, was there like a moment where you kind of saw that path, or how did you kind of go from, you know, in your own grief thinking, now I want to concentrate on helping other people?
Well, I think it came from my initial frustration with the lack of resources that I could find easily. You know, like Andy said before, we don't choose this.
Right.
And so when you're in the middle of it, I've not gotten more than a traffic ticket in my life. So I've never even been to a criminal courthouse. So I didn't know where to begin, what to do.
And it's not like television, right? People have this idea that it's like Law and Order, and you know it all happens real quick, and you get justice.
Right. No. It's a long process with
Right.
multiple resets. And again, I don't know how this works. I didn't even know I had rights. I had no idea that as a family member of a homicide victim that I actually had rights.
Right.
And so through the DA's office, there is a victim services department in the DA's office. They were fantastic. They were really helpful. They let me know that I had rights. And they gave me some of the basics of it. And they were there with me every court date. There was multiple resets. You know, it took years. It took almost 3 years. And we had a confession. So there was no question on his guilt. It was multiple things that were going on, but
Right.
it took a long time. And so I realized that people need help. You know, I kind of took it upon myself to what are my rights? What are the laws? And how do I do this? And you know, I'm a little I don't want to say aggressive, but you know, I was emailing them. What's next? How does this work? What do I do?
You were asking questions.
Yeah, I was asking questions and trying to advocate for myself and my kid, but not everybody's like that.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
not everybody.
Some people are great at being their own advocate.
Right.
And other people, for whatever reason, they feel like, well, I don't especially when you're in that court system, you think,
Right.
I don't want to make anybody mad. I don't want to do anything that's going to harm the case.
Right.
And
Or not only that, but they are simply too devastated. They're simply trying to survive.
yeah.
I know a lady with parents of murdered children, and they meet here once a month. There is a lady that comes regularly who has said multiple times, if it wasn't for the rest of my family, I wouldn't want to be here anymore. Like, she can't work. She just can't function. And so when you're in that mindset, how do you know to go look up the code?
Right.
And
When
find
you're
out
just
what my
trying to
laws are.
survive.
Right. You're just trying to make it through and try to work and everything else that you're trying to go on and do too. Again, I had it easy. Crime was solved right away. It was the same day he was arrested, apprehended on site, all of that. So I had it easy. And so throughout this journey, it was, how can I make some good come out of it? And I, just kind of prayed to God. I was like, I don't really know what you want me to do with this, but wherever you lead me, I'll go. And I just kind of let it happen. And Andy has been such a wonderful supporter to me, answering all my questions, connecting me with people, connecting me.
How
with
we
parents
met
and
was
children.
one of these flukish stories
Yes.
as well. It's a great story.
Yeah,
What happened?
so I'm a runner, right?
Yeah.
And I've been running races and marathons off and on over the years. And this was during COVID, so everything was locked down. And I hadn't really run in quite a while. I know Memorial Park like the back of my hand. Okay, so I decided, I was just having a bad day, and I decided to go to Memorial Park to walk. And it was, I parked at a place I don't normally park at. I'm a creature of habit. And it was a time that I normally go early in the morning, and this was not early in the morning. And I just went walking. And so I come up on this table with people petitions, and I didn't know what it was. And I saw parents of murdered children, and I was like, oh, okay. And I said, well, I'll sign whatever it is, I'll sign it. And Andy said, are you affected by homicide? And I was, all I could do not to cry. Like, it's like he could read me.
He sensed it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so he gave me his card, and I remember I still have the photo. I sent a picture of it, and I sent it to my friends. You're not going to believe what just happened.
And this
And-
was during National Crime Victims' Rights Week.
Yes,
Wow.
it was. It was
Yes,
so
that's
the
why
event
we were
that they
there.
did Sunday,
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
did Sunday at Eleanor.
It was like you
Park.
were meant to be there
Yeah.
at that particular time. Because like you said, you hadn't been in a while. You didn't go the normal time that you go.
You have no idea how many of those moments. Andy and I laugh about it now. It's just kind of meant to be.
Yeah.
People that I know, like there's a board member I went to high school with her husband. There's another family member here in town. I actually went to high school. I didn't know him, but went to high school with another victim. It's just these multiple things. So I don't help.
Right.
And the other thing too is that this person took my daughter's life legacy away. She'll never have children.
Right.
He took my grandbabies away.
Yeah.
He took out a whole line of people a whole generation or line of people that she would have created.
All
had
these
she
lives that
lived.
will never be the same because of what he
Would never
did.
even exist because
Right.
he took her out.
There's no
So-
future.
Right. So what I can do as her mom is I can pick up the football of her legacy and I can carry it on this way. And this is a way for me an avenue for me. All the love I have for my kid, it's got somewhere to go.
Yeah.
And I can transfer and I can make some good come out of it.
That's great.
So-
And she was talking about that she didn't know that she had rights and crime victims have rights. You of all people know there was a day when crime victims had no rights.
It's been a long journey back when
Yeah.
I started in the 90s. Crime victims' rights were basically in its infancy.
Yeah.
It was just getting started. And the phrase that I used to use was I was going to make victims' rights to the 90s what civil rights was to the 60s. And a good analogy in that is your Miranda warnings. We've all watched the Law and Order shows, cop shows, and we all
Right.
know that if you're pulled over or you're accused of a crime, you're supposed to be read your warnings. You have
Yeah.
the right to remain silent, so on and so forth. And what happens to the case if you're not apprised of your rights as a defendant? What happens to the case?
It's thrown out.
Bye-bye,
Yeah.
it's gone.
That's
because
it,
you
yeah.
weren't.
Yeah.
So I said, now what happens to you if you're a victim of a crime and you're not told of what your rights are as a victim of a crime? You might get a shrug of the shoulders. You might get it, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell
Yeah.
you. But you see the difference, defendants' rights, and rightfully so, are protected and codified in the U.S. Constitution.
I can remember like in the early 90s talking to Vina Cronin with MAD And,
Gilda Moskwinsky with
yeah,
parents
and
murder children.
these
yeah.
people were basically like, when the defendant was on trial, they were basically told, well, you have to sit there, don't cry, don't make any noise, don't.
I've been told that recently.
Yes, like if you make any kind of sound, then you got to leave the courtroom.
Yeah, all kind of bull.
And how could you sit there and some of the testimony is awful that you have to listen to. Right.
Hey, look, we got official Fox microphones right now.
Living
Did
Fox
that come
26
down from the
o'clock.
headquarters?
Right.
Corporate? Are we that good now? The microphone?
Do you think that, I mean, it's come a long way, but do you see where there's still improvement in the future for crime victims?
Look what's happening with HPD.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a classic example where you have victims that weren't apprised of anything,
Right.
told of anything, or even told the status of their case. So yeah, we've come a long way, but what's happened, recently with using the police department and the non-investigation of cases clearly shows we still have a long way to go because there's not going to be any repercussions or ramifications
Right.
for the victims. There's nothing that they can't do. They can't do anything legally. They can't file a civil on that. I'm like, I said, defendants, and rightfully so. I totally agree with it. So there's a lot of things that we've achieved and accomplished over the decades. The crime victims compensation. We've got
Right.
relocation expenses for domestic violence, sexual assault, children who were the victims of attempted murder. We've done a lot of improvement with the post-conviction advocacy, and that's kind of an area that's pretty much unexplored with parole rights.
Yeah.
We're doing parole videos right now, recording families. We have a lot more setups than we had. We have the right. You might remember one of the late members of Parents March when Donna Patrick.
Oh, yeah, Madonna. Yes.
She was a trip.
Yes.
So I went with her.
Sure.
It was 1997. I went with her to a parole board hearing, and walked in, and the parole board member leaned over, and she said, Andy, we're just treating you out of courtesy. We don't have to do it. And I smiled. I don't know. What I do is usually very sinister, subliminal reason. I said, you know what? I'm going to remove the word courtesy. I'm going to get a bill filed. I'm going to get passed that says the parole board must meet with victims' families prior to a vote. That was how that was.
And you did it. Yeah.
Because of that comment right there.
I mean, that's basically what happened in a lot of instances, right? It was like going to the legislature and making a new law.
Pretty much. I mean, the notification system, the rights to, view an execution if you want to be there.
Well, and I think that's where families like mine have a role where we can step up. And that's
Yeah.
one of the things that I would like to do is to help victims feel less victimized. I mean, you're already victimized by the actual crime.
Right.
So let's help them learn to be less victimized by the system. And let's, learn to heal from these things and then make some positive change. Because this happens just seeing in different ways.
It has to be.
So I hope to identify some gaps like that. We need to how does this work?
Yeah.
So we can identify some gaps and really fill those and build those bridges between people that make the policy and people that are affected by the policy.
And I would think,
Speaking of policy, you never in your wildest dreams ever thought you'd be testifying at a legislative hearing until the last session. And there you were.
Yeah.
Not once, but several times.
it's got to be good too, I would think, for just to be able to actually sit down and talk to people that they do know how it feels. Nobody knows how it feels to lose a child unless it happened to you.
It's a heavy, heavy, heavy topic, and it's not a topic that everybody can handle. So sometimes merely being in the same room before they get it
Right.
is enough.
Yeah.
You don't even have to say anything, but they just will get it. And it's super, super important to be around these people. They are, the conversations that we have with other family members are there's some ugly things that we talk about. It doesn't faze us anymore because we're living in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But it does faze other people. And of course, before this happened to me, I didn't really know what to say to anyone.
Right. And nobody wants to be a member of Parents of Murdered Children.
The word itself, murder, is ugly.
Yeah.
It's ugly. But you know what's uglier? What they did to our loved ones.
Right.
That's even uglier. You should see. You think that word is ugly? Look at the crime scene evidence. That's ugly. And so it's so important for this community of victims and their families to come together and help each other and guide each other and just try and make things better. And we can do that in memory of our kids or our loved ones.
Yeah.
And it's a way for us to make things right. It's a healthy, positive way to kind of get through all of it.
Well, and your daughter's looking down, and every time you help somebody, she's smiling.
Right.
You know,
I'll tell you something I said a long time ago, and I sign off on it anytime, and I'll tell everybody out there listening. Jessica's mama will never go quietly. Never. For her, I will do it, and everything I do is in her moment.
What was it like during the sentencing when you got a chance to make a statement
Oh,
in
man.
court?
I didn't know what to expect. One thing was I take that back, one time prior in all of the court dates that I had, I'd never seen him in person.
Really?
We had no idea who this person was. We didn't know him. And so to be in the room, I know what he did to her, right? I know details. To be in the room with someone who did this to her. I brought her in this world, but the stranger took
You must have wanted to just run over and kill her.
so I had a whole thing, I'm not going to be ugly, I think today with things. And so in the courtroom, I'm sitting in a smaller courtroom and he's sitting on the edge. And I was to walk up 2 feet around from him, go up, sit on the stand, say what I have to say, and then walk down and come back out.
You were close enough to grab him if you wanted to.
I thought about it.
Yeah.
And a guard stood between us the whole time.
Right.
In my mind, I'm doing the algebra. I'm like, okay, he could reach.
Right, just one.
Lick. And
Yeah.
it'd be worth going
One
down.
punch in the face,
I
yeah.
thought it, and of course, I would never do that. But, he looked me in the eye
Did he?
the entire time with no emotion on his face.
He didn't react at all.
Didn't react at all. Didn't hang his head in shame.
Didn't seem remorseful or something?
Didn't, I don't know him, so, but
Yeah.
it wasn't, it didn't look like it to me, and I was looking for it.
What was the most important thing you wanted to tell him or to get across to him, would you say?
That Jessica's mom was not going by it, and I wasn't going to let this go, and that he may have done this to her, and he may have done this to the family, but I'm not going by it.
What was his sentence?
40 years. So it was a plea deal. We knew he was guilty. He knew he was guilty. He had admitted it. And there was several mental health evaluations, and he was found, competent to stand trial every single. He had multiple ones, every single one. So he was competent. So I think it was important for him to know I wasn't going to give up, and I was going to make sure that to pull every ounce of influence I could in my life to make sure he served every second.
Did it do something for you to be able to address? Did it do something for you inside?
I don't know yet. I don't know yet. Yes, I wanted him. My daughter and I kind of resemble each other, and I just thought of this. You know what? I actually hoped that he looked at me and saw her in my face, and that would rattle him.
Yeah.
Because he was never rattled before. So I hope it did. I hope maybe that's what stunned him. I just want him to, in that way, suffer through that.
The defendant, they don't have to, right? I mean, if somebody if he wanted to do this or look away, there's no one in the court that's going to say, you have to look this person right in the eye.
Going to force them, and I've seen sometimes where the defendant will walk out and they don't bring them back.
Are they allowed to do that?
Depends on the court, depends on the situation.
They shouldn't be allowed to leave. Yeah.
I saw, there was one guy, I remember, that he wouldn't even come out of the holding cell for the sentencing.
Now, the judge would have the legal authority to say, hey, idiot, you're getting out there, you're coming out here right now.
Yeah, thankfully that didn't happen. He sat through the whole thing, and I just got up and left. So I don't know what even happened after that.
What would you, like, if somebody finds themselves in that situation, what would you tell them that their first call or the first thing they should do?
Well, I think it depends on their situation, but definitely contact Crime Stoppers.
Yeah.
Because right now, they are kind of the main source for all of the other resources.
Right.
They have the connections to connect people with all of the other resources.
Right.
Of course, it depends if defendant's been charged, then the DA's office has a victim services department. They are fantastic. But they, they are limited to what they can do.
Sure.
There's not a lawyer from the DA office sitting with me every
Right.
court appearance. So there are resources, but my advice would be to contact Crime Stoppers, parents of murdered children here in town, and just ask for help. There's plenty of people who care, plenty of people who want to help, and there is help out there.
I know from all these years with you, you kind of take these people under your wing and you keep them the whole time. You kind of see them through everything. You'll go to court with them.
Become part of your extended family.
Yeah.
And really, and we become very, very close. And like in Leticia's case, I could sense that there was a lot of potential, enormous potential with her. And she was quickly able to grasp, the part of going from her own grief to how can I turn this negative into positive action for social change. So it's like I said, it's something she never dreamed of doing, but she's a great role model and example of someone who had the worst thing that can happen in your family is trying to make it better for others to come along. We need a lot more of Leticias out there.
And God wanted you to. Don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like I said, I just said, I don't know what you want me to do with all this.
But he showed you.
For us to have been at that right moment, at the right time, and that's the only day we're out there.
Right.
That's it. We're not out there for another year.
And I don't watch TV. Not because I don't dislike TV,
But
I
you do watch Fox Breaking Dawn.
It's her most favorite show ever.
Well, I was in school for a long time. I went back to school, later in life. So I just didn't watch TV.
Some people
I didn't even know who he was. I had no idea.
She's nobody.
You know who he was? You didn't know who Randy Wallace was?
Shut up.
This is.
I do now.
But you learn. Your journey really is just beginning.
It is.
Absolutely.
And you'll come back and you'll tell us what's going on, will you?
I will.
Bills. The bills that you testified ended up getting passed.
Yeah.
And they made a tremendous difference in the lives of people. So.
And it was just, I say this, it was just testimony, but it's not just testimony.
No, it's not just that's really how they decide. Right?
It's a personal thing behind it. I will tell you another thing that I did in the DA's office. Anytime I would email them saying, hey, where are we on this? What's going on here? What's going on here? At the end, I would sign off Jessica's mom and my name. And then underneath, I would find a photo of her, and there would be a couple of lines of a story about that photo.
That's
way back when she was in 8th grade, blah, 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 because I was making it personal every single time.
And you were making them know her more.
Yes. It wasn't just a case. Working. It wasn't just another email they're answering. This is a person we're talking about, and she had a life and people who loved her, and she was a lovely sister, child, cousin, friend, and that's who they're fighting for. And I wanted them to know that every step of the way. Every step of the way.
You got to come back and see us. Before we go, we got to talk about tonight's Breaking Dawn. It's an unusual one.
It's, we touched on it briefly last week.
That's right.
We had an offender who's got multiple convictions. He's a registered sex offender. He's been locked up since April of 21 for felony violating a protective order.
Many times.
Geez, I lost track how many times. So he'd been unable to make bond, and then he was declared mentally incompetent.
To stand trial back in August
of 23. And we're figuring, okay, that's pretty much the end. We don't have to worry about him.
Nope.
So forth. And then all of a sudden, I believe it was April the 9th, all of a sudden, he's declared competent. Not only is he declared competent, they're removing him from this behavioral center that he'd been at, and they gave him
a PR bond.
Felony PR bond for $120,000, and they put him in a house in a neighborhood.
When you say $120,000, that doesn't mean he had to pay that, does it?
No, he got off scot-free.
Right. He basically got to get out of jail.
Yes. So that's tonight. We're going to talk about the situation, the issue of probably the people have no idea that there's homes in their neighborhood
Right.
that are licensed, permitted, and regulated by the
Boarding homes.
county to house, and I don't know who else they house. I mean, I'm sure they house people with mental issues,
They do.
senior citizens with
Right.
disabilities, but I know of this one.
And we are in no way saying that boarding homes are bad and that anybody that runs a boarding home is bad. Boarding homes can be a needed thing. What we're telling you is, if you want to know if there's one in your neighborhood, we'll tell you how to do that.
Watch tonight.
That's right. Tonight at 9, Fox 26 News at 9. Hey, thank you so much for watching. And hey, be kind to yourself and everyone else. Bye.